All right. Well, good morning. Thank you for everyone joining us today. I want to take a moment to thank Sean Rainey for shepherding us through this morning and doing a great job with some difficult circumstances. My name is Jeff Meyers. I have the pleasure of serving as the Vice Chair for Legislative Affairs for the Odessa Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you all for being here and being a part of the conversation that is going on this morning. As well, I want to take a moment to thank again our presenting sponsors for today's virtual legislative days, and that is the Texas Tech University Health Science Center and Atmos Energy. Thank you again, both of those organizations, for their support and making today happen. Obviously, it's always an exciting time to live and work here in the Permian Basin. In West Texas, we face several challenges, but the legacy we have is one of overcoming, like we have with some of these technical issues today, as well as exceeding expectations. And we look forward to continuing that, to build on that legacy today. You don't have to spend much time here in the basin to realize how much of our daily lives are impacted by infrastructure and transportation. So we are honored to have Lauren Garduno and Larry Meyers with us today to talk about these issues and answer some questions. Lauren Garduno has served in various roles at TxDOT over a 30-year career, including nearly 10 years as the Odessa District Engineer, and is the Director of Planning and Project Development in Austin. He currently serves in TxDOT administration as a project advisor, overseeing efforts for the Commission regarding the Permian Promise. Lauren graduated from Texas Tech University with a bachelor's in civil engineering. He also obtained a master's degree from Abilene Christian University in management and a master's in civil engineering from Texas A&M University. Larry Meyers has over 35 years of experience since coming to Washington with then Senator Lloyd Bentsen, former chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. After 4 years with the senator serving as a legislative director, he received an appointment in the Carter administration, being named Director for Congressional Affairs, U.S. Department of Agriculture, responsible for both USDA and White House lobbying activities. He began independent consulting in 1981, and in 1989 was named by Beecham's Guide to Key Lobbyists as one of the top 125 lobbyists out of the several thousand in Washington. For the last 15 years, he has served as guest lecturer at the National Defense University on the topic of lobbyists and lobbying in the U.S. Capitol. Larry currently works with the Interstate 14 Coalition on the expanded designation, including the western segment that includes San Angelo, Midland, and Odessa. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you, Jeff. I will try to go through a presentation that's pretty quick since we don't have a lot of time. So if I talk too fast, I'll try to have room for questions at the end. But thank you all for inviting me to be a part of your program today, and let me participate in your conference. I'm going to share a screen. It's going to have some presentation on it. Kind of as Jeff said, I've been kind of tasked to be the keeper of the Permian Promise for the Commission out in West Texas, and I'll explain what that is here in a minute. But this update kind of will tell you about some of the work that TxDOT has been doing in the region, particularly in the Midland Odessa area, that our district engineer and our staff have been working on out there for y'all. But the question has always been, why focus on the Permian Basin? You're an economic generator out in the Permian Basin. A lot of our Prop 1 funding, of course, is coming from those oil and gas. The revenues coming from oil and gas, and so that is money that's being fed back into the TxDOT program that we're trying to use to build out statewide. And so obviously we're trying to put some of that money back where it's coming from. The impact that you guys have out there in terms of safety and even some congestion in some of the rural parts of the district have forced us to take a harder look at trying to invest out there to protect the traveling public as we continue to try to move our goods through that region. I won't show this slide too long. You know what it is. You live right in the middle of the Permian Basin, and that's kind of what we've been going off of when we start talking about Permian Basin work. The question is what was the Permian Promise? Chairman Bug of our Highway Commission pushed an initiative out. It's been a little over 2 years now that said we want to invest back in the Permian region because of the impact the Permian region has on not only our state highway funds, but our gross domestic product statewide. And so The commission made a commitment, $600 million commitment out of their CAT 12 strategic priority funding to kind of jumpstart, you would say, kind of infuse some money into these projects out of the Permian Basin. And I call that the Permian Promise. He has a couple initiatives. One is the Texas Clear Lanes, congestion work in the 5 metro areas, and then he's got this, what he calls the Permian Promise. And that's what it was defined as. Real quick, 2 years ago, in the 2020 Unified Transportation Program, they committed $365 million to that, $600 million in these areas. The bulk of it will be put on, of course, IH-20 between Midland and Ector counties, trying to develop increasing the capacity of the interstate and also improving the frontage roads so we can go to a one-way operation. There were some other projects out there in the Permian Basin that were selected also, including trying to get to work on a Pecos relief route and constructing some Super 2 passing lanes, which is what we call like our 3-lane highways for safety reasons out in Gaines County. We also have a situation over on 1053 in Pecos County where we have some subsidence and where our road is actually sinking, and so we're putting some money into trying to relocate that road, realign that road on FM 1053. There was $235 million left in that UTP in August of 2019 to be looked at next year. This, of course, is a picture of where those projects were the first time. The second round, the commission, which happened just this last August in the 21 UTP, the commission committed the rest of their $600 million funding towards these projects. Again, more down the road on 150 on IH-20, and then there was some money put on some work, particularly on 652 up in Culberson County and 137 in the Glasscock-Reagan County area. A lot of oil field traffic beating those roads up, a lot of safety issues, and we were trying to improve those areas also. And this is what it looked like graphically. You can see a picture of where that money went in the 2021 UTP. Now, what I just showed you, of course, was just the $600 million commitment that the commission made. But I want to spend a moment real quick and tell you about what has gone on for us in the Permian Basin since about 2017, 2018. After Proposition 1 and Proposition 7 passed, we have 12 categories of funding in our Unified Transportation Program, which is a 10-year program where we allocate funding that we think we're going to anticipatedly see over that 10 years for construction. And as you can see for the Odessa district, what the passing of Prop 1 and Prop 7 did for us is it started to put some money into some of these categories that in the past had been kind of lean. For example, if you look at your local MPO funding before 2017, 2018, it was not a lot of money per year being generated for projects within the MPO region. So that has changed. This is a 10-year number of $176 million that's allocated for the Category 2 for the MPO. Also, the Category 4, which is what we call connectivity corridor funding. They actually split some of that money up and put some of it inside urban areas, which again is within the MPO boundaries of the Midland Odessa region. That's $81 million for over 10 years. And then, of course, the Odessa district has received quite a bit of what we call regional connectivity funding of CAT 4. You'll see a lot of that work being done on 285, for example, some of it on 302, for example, up in that part of the world. But another category that I want to make you aware of is that $2.1 billion of that UTP was dedicated towards what we call Category 11 energy sector. And what's impressive about this number, 2.1 billion, is that about $1 billion of that 10-year program is in the Permian Basin. And of that $1 billion, you can see the Odessa district gets about $592 million of that. And so that is a pretty good chunk of money that the Odessa district has in its 10-year window to try to get projects, try to improve some of these roadways that are getting beat up and getting destroyed because of some of the heavy traffic that we've seen out there in the region. And so that's what they're using there to invest on that. And then, of course, the CAT 12, that 552 in the UTP includes part of that $600 million that I just showed you that was part of the Permian Promise. There was some other CAT 12 money that went in there also. Side note, to build out this program, this 10-year program, people sometimes don't realize it, but there's 5 legislative appropriation requests that would happen in that 10-year window. And our operating budget comes off of that LAR request. And it's a 2-year budget that gets renewed every 2 years to continue to operate. And it will, over 10 years, we will invest about $400 million in engineering, planning, development, and right-of-way to try to get this program out the door that you see above you. So it's not just the UTP funding that we're talking about. It's also some operating funding, pretty significant amount that will go into the Permian Basin in the Midland Odessa region over that 10-year period. Planning efforts that we're doing. I know this is a lot of data, and I'm sorry for the time, but real quick, we're doing some, the UTP has we treat it like a funnel. The outer years about 5 through 10, you're doing planning work. You get into the 4-year window within the UTP, and you can develop. We call it develop authority, and then you get the 2-year window of the UTP, and we call that construct authority. So as a project moves from planning to development to construct, eventually it's let for construction, and so that's kind of how we are working these projects that we have out in the Permian Basin. There's a lot of corridors been identified. A lot of this relief route in Pecos has been identified for planning efforts. And we actually have a lot of consultants that are already on board to help us do that. This gives you a quick picture of where that planning work is going on right now as we speak to try to get ready to get these corridors ready for possible future 4-lane divided somewhere down the road as they generate that need and for that. Development efforts. Most of our development efforts right now is on the I-20 corridor. We've got a big project broken up into several projects that's going to happen from the west side of Odessa to the east side of Midland. And we've got not all of it funded at the moment, but we've got a big piece of it funded, and particularly the piece in the middle between Midland and Odessa. That is all funded to build extra 2 lanes, lane in each direction, plus improve the frontage roads and change all the grade separations where we need to so we can facilitate one-way traffic. And so that would be of interest to this group, I'm sure, is the I-20 corridor work that we got designers already putting plan work together to get that out the door for letting. And this is a graphic that shows that. Construction, there has been some construction. The interchanges at I-20 in Midkiff and County Road 1250 are already under construction there in y'all's area. We also have some work going on 302 on a bill grant up at Kermit over that railroad. And then, of course, there's some work already going on in the Lubbock and El Paso districts on those roads there. And that's kind of a picture that shows that. So what we're doing is depending on what the future is for federal level, we will work with whatever is given to us at the federal level to try to leverage funding as much as possible. We will go after whatever program that that is available to us. The commission also, they use the Permian Promise funding to kind of jumpstart some of this work out here, and we will continue to look at your Category 2, Category 4 money, and Category 11 money to supplement the strategic priority funding from the commission to go forward. And that, in a nutshell, is my update. Larry, I will turn it over to you. And I do that, I got to stop sharing my screen, I think. So.
Very good. Thank you, Lauren. Excellent presentation. And thanks to TxDOT for all the good work you're doing in this area. We appreciate the chance to work with you and appreciate the chance to be here today. Let's just do a video or audio check. Can you hear me okay? Very good.
Yes.
I'll try to make mine very brief and leave as much time for questions as I can, but we were asked to briefly give a little report on the concept of Interstate 14. This concept originated back in 2002 coincidentally by groups in Georgia and in Texas with the concept of better connectivity and interstate connections between the central part of the state and the Gulf ports for the military. Community support was built. Motran was one of the first early participants in this doing. Legislation was developed and Senator Cornyn led the effort in the Senate, and Congressman Babin led the effort in the House of Representatives, and each member around the congressional member up and down the corridor co-sponsored the legislation. And TxDOT had a section of the route around Fort Hood that they had built out to interstate standards already. So it was easy to get congressional approval to designate that as Interstate 14 and began the concept since TxDOT had done the work even before the designation came about. So TxDOT deserves a lot of credit for initiating this new east-west interstate. Most of our interstates, as you can see, are north-south. So this is a great new effort for an east-west route. After the Congress designated this section within the Central Texas to the Sabine River as Interstate 14, some of the TxDOT staff sat down with us and said, why didn't you extend this on out to the Permian Basin? We really need connectivity out in that area. And we were glad to start working on that. At the same time, we got inquiries from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia that they would like to continue Interstate 14 to connect with the original concept over in Georgia. So that coalition was developed, and Motran again added to that by suggesting that the expanded route, rather than strictly east-south, take a leg through the Permian Basin to connect with I-10 and then on to I-37, which would enable interstate connectivity from the Permian Basin down to Port of Corpus Christi. So that was added to the legislation. And it, again, the same groups of congressmen got behind the legislation, led by Congressman Babin of East Texas. And it was added to the bill that passed the Congress last June. However, it did not become law because the Senate did not act on the bill, but the House of Representatives did pass it. That required that the states, each of the states along the route from Texas to to Georgia, write letters in support, and each of the states did that. Since that time, the requirement of the Senate staff has been that each metropolitan planning organization along the route send letters in support of the route, and that has occurred too. So all that effort would seem to be frustrated with because the bill did not become law when Congress ended last December. However, all that work just set the stage for this year. We've been assured by Chairman DeFazio in the House that since the authorization passed the House last year, he plans on leaving the same language in the bill when they bring it up, and the committee is scheduled to take up the legislation May the 5th. Let me stress to you that this is simply the authorization. This is not money that will build it, but it's simply the base authorization that enables the states to move forward when their budgets and their political support allows them to do. So that's where we stand today. We expect the legislation, as I said, to come up in the House of Representatives in committee on May the 5th. The Senate has begun to work on their bill, and the information has been supplied to each of the senators along the route. Senator Cornyn has indicated that he will support it. So we're just waiting to Congress to move the legislation. There are two efforts underway. One is extension of the FAST Act, which is the basic authority for highways. And the second is the larger infrastructure bill that you read about in the newspaper. Chairman DeFazio in the House last week on a Zoom that I was on said the decision has not been made yet to whether or not to combine the two efforts as they did last year, or whether that would be too large, and they didn't need to move an extension of the FAST Act, which would expires this year, so we've got to have an extension of the base transportation legislation, or whether to combine it with the broader infrastructure legislation that you read about is up to $2 trillion. I suspect the bill will be combined in the House of Representatives, but since that was the bill that passed last year, the Senate has not made that decision yet. So that's one of the unknowns as to how big this bill will be. Will it be transportation only, or will it be the broader infrastructure legislation combined? So we'll be following that very closely. With that, I'll join Lauren with answering any questions that any of the group might have.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen. There's a couple questions popping up in the chat. I want to thank you for that discussion. Lauren, can you speak to a little bit of there's a question about 42nd Street in Odessa, formerly run in our district. I'm sure you're familiar with 42nd Street. Can you talk a little bit about that designation, where the that falls under whose delegation, and kind of some of the tricky things that go on with the roads that are, maybe county roads that are going through the city and that kind of stuff.
So I guess trying to understand the question. So I also know about is it a state road or is it a city street? Is that what we're trying to determine the question, Jeff?
Yeah, the question was about 42nd Street and any updates that would happen to that. But I know there are some, extenuating circumstances there based on control and where the funding would come from.
Yeah, so it would be an eligible. It's on the state system, so it would be an eligible project for the Category 2 funding from the MPO if they prioritize that work. You're talking about trying to do some improvements on that roadway, I'm assuming, and so it would qualify for Category 2 funding, which is the state funding that is designated to the Metropolitan Planning Organization for work within their region. And could be on their list for improvements if that's what they so choose. I don't know if that answered the question, Jeff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if there are other questions, go ahead and for the folks tuning in, go ahead and pop those into the chat. We do have one on what does the return of earmarks mean for West Texas. That one is for Mr. Meyers.
Thank you. Both the majority and the minority have voted this year to accept earmarks under some stiff new rules, such as no private companies can be involved. Only public projects, such as universities and transportation projects, Corps of Engineers, and that thing will be accepted. And that includes both policy and funding. So the members of Congress are now, they have forms available that public groups can request direct funding. Will be limited to 1% of the discretionary money that Congress has for projects, which was exactly the case in 2011 when they stopped the earmark process. So this offers opportunities for individual projects to be funded, affecting particularly the Corps of Engineers and local economic development and so forth. We haven't really followed the earmark process for transportation in the past years because we've always preferred to get the money as unencumbered as can to Texas and let TxDOT make the decisions based on its work. So I'm not aware of any direct transportation earmark requests so far, but we're still very, very early in the game, and it'll be a new process this year to go through.
Very good, thank you. I think we've got one last question, and this one would be for Lauren and TxDOT. Is there any use of any kind of solar energy or any kind of recycled products or anything like that on any of the state highways?
So when the big picture recycled products, we do use quite a bit of recycled asphalt in our system, and we'll continue to do so. We do actually have in our right-of-way division, we actually have a section of right-of-way division that's looking at possible alternate uses of our right-of-way. We've already, the phone towers, for example, are becoming a big deal in the last two legislative sessions of that. But also we've just had some introductions of possible solar gridding in some of our facilities statewide. So there would be a use of a renewable energy possibly on our existing footprint of facilities. So yes, we actually have entertained that and have had some people look into that and have those kind of conversations, and going forward it may become a bigger issue. So.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you both so much for coming on and visiting with us today out here in the Permian Basin. We appreciate the work that you guys do to help us with the important topics of infrastructure and transportation. So thank you guys both very much for being here. To everyone else, we're going to take a short break as we prepare for Chairman Craddock for the lunch session. So hang on just a moment.
Jeff, are you not going to admit to them that we're actually kin to one another?
We are. Mr. Meyers and I are actually cousins. I found out last night. So we are. So it's a family affair today.
I have 110 first cousins in Texas. So I should have run for office a long time ago. So
That's right. You might get the vote just by us alone.
not quite a small a world.
Well, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.